Hello, my name is Michael, and this is my story. I grew up in a one-parent family, and my mum basically worked two jobs, and she helped us in every way that she could possible, and there were 6 of us in the family. When I was 13, I was asked to be a lookout on a robbery up at a place called Bass Charrington's Brewery in Pilsworth Industrial Estate. And my reward for that at the time as a 13-year-old lad was 4 cans of Breaker Lager. I opened one of the cans and it was the amber nectar of life for me. And what I mean by that was I was very shy and introverted, and as soon as I put that alcohol inside me, I was extrovert and I was basically doing what I thought I wanted to do. I wasn't a career criminal. I broke into places when I was drunk and loved the excitement of it all, and ended up going to different institutions, Borstal prison. Had 2 children in that time as well by 2 different women, so I wasn't a responsible father. I was just chaotic. Then at 20, I'd had enough of Bury. I thought Bury's too small for me. Really, I'd created enough problems that I wanted to get away from it. And I ended up at my brother's in London, who had come out of the army. I ended up going on the drink, and it went from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to Wednesday, Thursday. You get the picture. And eventually, my life ended up where I met this girl called Zita, who was preaching in Wimbledon. And she was stunning, a stunning looking woman, and that was the only reason I spoke to her. But she started talking to me about Jesus. She was a Christian, born again Christian. And we had a conversation, but eventually I left and says, I don't want to be speaking to Christians. And I ended up going back to work, and 3 weeks later, Zita ended up in our training room, and she introduced me to her husband, a boyfriend at the time, called Peter. And me and Peter had a conversation in a car one day, and the conversation was that Peter was talking to me about God, and he actually said to me, Michael, can you feel the atmosphere that's in this car? Can you feel basically God's presence? And it was the first time that I had to openly admit I could feel something. I didn't know what it was, but I said, yes, Peter. And he said, that's God. He's basically looking for you, Michael. He wants you. And it stuck with my mind, but I soon basically just dismissed it. I then ended up in Bury, back in Bury on a visit back to my hometown. And I decided, because my mind was telling me, I've tried relationships, I've tried family, I've tried drugs, I've tried alcohol, I've tried money, I've tried moving, I've tried everything. And I came to the decision that this world wasn't for me. And I thought, I'm out of here, I'm going to kill myself. And I had all these tablets, and I went to my friends, and I thought I'll do it there because my family would be notified, because my friend would let everybody know. And I ended up in his flat smoking weed, and I fell asleep, and his windows had transom bars shaped like basically crucifixes. And when I woke up about 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't lift my head up because I was that wrecked, but I looked on the floor and there was a shadow of a crucifix. Now that just in itself would have basically said something to me, but it wouldn't have meant a lot. But what came after that was an inner voice, and this inner voice said, everything's going to be all right. And then on the 2nd of July, I got my brother turned up at my house, my oldest brother, and said, your brother Vincent has died. And I went to his funeral 7 days later, and I could see all the chaos that was happening in the funeral. One of my friends was chatting up my girlfriend at the time, and I thought he's only doing that because of drinking, and I saw that chaos. Somebody had scars all over their face because of fighting over the years, and I said, that's chaos. And it was like the world had come very into clarity. And I looked at this pint of Guinness and I went, it's the drink. It's the drink that's causing these problems. And I never took a drink from that day. So October the 10th, 1991 is the last time I basically my first day of sobriety was that date. I had these experiences, and by meeting Zita and by meeting Peter, they had spoke to me about Jesus. I then had the experience of the crucifix on the floor and the light shining through the window and the actual voice saying, everything's going to be all right. So on October the 10th, 1991, I realised and accepted that Jesus had died on the cross for me, and he'd taken me from my chaotic life through him dying on the cross for me. My life today is not always a bed of roses, but it's 100 times better than what it was when I was basically drinking and living in the chaos. I'm married to a wonderful woman called Jane, who's part of this church, Life Church. I have 4 grown-up children who have got grandchildren, and I'm a member, part of a wonderful group called the Life Recovery Group. And yes, that's my life, and I'm eternally grateful to my higher power, Jesus Christ, for what he did for me by dying on the cross.